I'm pretty sure all of you know the story by now, so let's recap quickly. Due to contract disputes, Francis Ngannou left the UFC without losing the heavyweight championship. Francis says it's because he asked for the fighters to be given more power within the promotion. Dana White says it's because he wants to get easy paydays some other place with lighter competition. The UFC has already scheduled a fight between Ngannou, who comes off of a huge win at his home country, and Jon Jones, the returning GOAT of MMA. Meanwhile, the ball is on Francis' court. If he succeeds, he'll show that there is a world outside of the UFC. It'd give the champions and high-ranked guys more bargaining power since they can point out what happened with Ngannou and threaten to take the same road. If Francis Ngannou makes it, we may have an MMA business where we the promotions are fighting over the talent, instead of one where the talent fighting just to get into the UFC. But, that's not going to happen. Let's make something clear, Francis isn't Conor McGregor. By which I mean, Conor could announce that tomorrow night he'll box a dog, and that event would sell just because Conor is fighting. Ngannou's latest fight, which involved 2 championship belts, and the UFC pushing a story of 2 former training partners fighting each other, only did 300,000 PPV buys. This is the most attention Francis has ever had, and probably will ever have. He needs to act quick before the hype dies down. His next fight must be announced before UFC 285, because if the new UFC heavyweight champion is decided before we know who will be Francis' next opponent, then those news are bound to take some of the spotlight away from Ngannou, especially if Jones is the winner. But I'll talk about that in another video. As for the date of the fight itself, let's assume it will happen 3 months from now. Today is January 30th, so the bout would happen around early April. Okay. Who is Francis going to fight? First, let's establish that he's 36 already, has at least one bad knee, and, for the past 8 years, has only trained boxing as a part of MMA. Let's see his options. He can't start padding his record with bumps before challenging a big star, for 2 reasons. 1, by the time he's done he'd be both out of his prime and out of any public interest, and 2, he risks being exposed by a nobody. He can go for a fight against Wilder or Fury. The first matchup would be sold on both men's incredible knockout power, and the second one would be sold as the bout to determine the baddest man on the world. The problem is that I don't see Francis beating either of them, I really don't. So what's his other option? Fighting in PFL's heavyweight division? That'd just prove Dana right. The first fight on PFL might garner some attention, but after that there's not much road left to travel. Don't get me wrong, I do want Francis to make it. More competition to the UFC would force them to give us the best shows possible. However, I have to call it as I see it, and if you ask me, Francis Ngannou is doomed to fail outside the UFC.